Multi-stream.
Multiverse.
Hey, good morrow, all you kiddos out there. This is Fatherly Fandom. I'm Chris. This guy down here is. Oh, other way, Matt. Other way.
That every time. All right.
There you
Well,
go.
I'm Marsha Brady, as you can tell, and I'm very used to this dynamic of being stuck in a cube talking to my friend. So, yeah, I'm Matt Parham, and I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
How are you doing, Chris?
Oh, we're using our full names now. So I'm
Yeah,
Chris Matthews, not the hardball guy, but
is he doing that
softball.
still?
I don't think so. I think he got fired. I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
So
don't watch political TV.
right.
But
So yeah, welcome to Fatherly Fandom, everybody. Like we have, been on a bit of a hiatus here. We tried to work out Obi-Wan Kenobi and doing reviews and things like that. And we're both dads. This is Fatherly Fandom. We both have kids
mhm.
and lives and work and all sorts of stuff that go on. So there's always stuff that gets in the way. So we got kind of delayed on that. So we just decided that what we would do is each and every week we would get on the line here on Sundays or Saturday. I think we talked about Saturdays too, or whenever we can, once a
Right?
week, and talk about all the things that we're watching, the series that we're seeing, and have just a general discussion with two compatriots here of film and television that we love so much. And so this is going to be our outlet so that we can talk about all the things that we really like. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think of it as a discussion of the cinematic art form because that is coming in all sorts of shapes and sizes these days, whether it be TV, movies, and now virtual reality. Really, if you want to get into some of the Vader stuff available on the Oculus, I mean, there are stories being told in a cinematic art form on a variety of different media and platforms. It's a pretty amazing time to be a fan. So, yeah, I'm excited to keep this going. So I
what?
think though, before we get too far into what we're viewing now, that we should wrap up what we started watching with Obi-Wan. We've seen the whole show now.
Yeah.
Just maybe a quick overview. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, so and that's where I wanted to start, anyways, on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then we'll dive into other series as well because I know that we watched quite a few things. So, as
Mm-hmm.
far as Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, how do I feel about this? The thing that I came out of the show thinking was this really necessary? Was this
Mm-hmm.
show necessary? I kind of had the same feeling about the Book of Boba Fett too. It's like there were a couple
Yeah,
episodes in there that seemed very necessary and that I loved. Um, but for me, I really enjoyed the first episode and the second episode. I loved the actress that played young Leia. She nailed it.
yeah,
I loved her character. Um, Reva, that character really fell flat for me. I felt, the actress was great, but at the same point, I felt like we needed more focus on Obi-Wan. I think a lot of us fans wanted to see Obi-Wan, talking to Qui-Gon Jinn, learning about the Force, and kind of the stuff that happens after the show. Like now's the show that I want to see when it comes to what I want to see out of that character. And so it
Right.
really, a lot of it fell short. I really like started to get back into it a little bit as it was going along. I liked the character development in Obi-Wan. I like that, he started off he had some growth with the character. He started off in a place where he was down and just destroyed from everything that happened, and he kind of had to build himself back up. I did like that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, again, I don't know how relevant or necessary the show is. Did we really need this show in Star Wars? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I just don't think that it went far enough to tell a story that said um, was relevant. It was a very like situational storyline, and to
Yeah.
me, that the storyline of Leia being kidnapped got old pretty quick. And there's only 6 episodes of this show,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of thinking like, how long are they going to spend on this? Because as you and I discussed, there's no there's no stakes here. We know everybody's going to be fine. We know she's going to be returned. He's not going to die. So why don't they work on the development of these characters? Maybe take a longer span of time or something. Have
Mm-hmm.
each episode, capture a little moment in Obi-Wan's journey as a Jedi and his time out in the desert or whatever adventures he gets in. Tell a longer story and include Vader in there. But
Yeah.
this just seems like such a short, tiny window of time where everybody should have come out of this, to me, different than they wound up in A New Hope. Like, I don't know how Vader spends the next 10 years looking for Obi-Wan and not figuring out exactly where he is. There was such, just to me, these like large sort of plot
Mm-hmm.
holes in how action was choreographed or planned out that just didn't make a whole lot of logical sense. And to me, those are just pitfalls of a show that is told in like 22 episodes. We'll see those kind of just like uh, throwaway action scenes in a show like Supernatural, which I love Supernatural, but Supernatural's got a little bit of camp built into it. It's very episodic. There's an arch to each season and stuff, but there's 22, 23, 24 episodes to go. So you're not going to get gold every single week. And that's part
Yeah.
of the charm of the show is that they know that. I think the writers write to that camp and to that silliness sometimes, and it works for that show. But this, you got 6 episodes, you got all these weird things that happen that don't make a lot of sense of why these really powerful characters can't surmount these very easy obstacles. And
Yeah.
and then you tell a show that's more about the action sequences than about the emotional journey of these characters that are in a very perilous situation. So I think they missed the mark on that. And if they'd have captured it, then maybe we would have had a more relevant story. You know?
Yeah, and they did say like this originally started off as a movie, so they actually had a script for a movie for Obi-Wan, like Solo and like Rogue One, but they actually stretched that out into these episodic, this mini
Yeah.
series as well, and I kind of wish they would have kept it as a movie, make it very concise and clear on what's going on. And I do want to back up a little bit. One of the things at the end of this show with Vader, when he's talking to the Emperor kind of makes it clear. It's like, you need to drop this obsession and you need to focus on what I need you to do. So that like the Emperor kind of told him to stop being obsessed with Obi-Wan. It's like
Yeah.
and so he's not going to be looking for Obi-Wan for the rest of the time until we see him in A New Hope. That's at least the gist that I got from that conversation with good old Palpatine in there at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really think that they could have done a lot better if like this was maybe 2 or 3 episodes and make them freaking longer. Like, why can't we
Mm.
have long Star Wars? I keep getting disappointed every single time. I'm like, Stranger Things did it. Like the last episode was like what, 2 hours long, 2+ hours.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't we have something like that? Come on, Disney, give us something that's not 37 minutes long. And they fool me every single time. I'm like, oh man, this series is gonna be like a movie each and every week. We're gonna have like an hour-long show, and then you see the runtime as soon as it starts. It's like 37 minutes. Every goddamn one of these things. I'm like, are you serious? Come on.
You've got this obsessive fan base that is going to tune in. It's like everything that they put out with Marvel. People are going to watch it. We don't need these elaborate trailers. We don't need all of this hype. People are going to go see Thor.
Yeah.
People are going to watch the Obi-Wan show, no matter how long you make it, and all the scheduling changes and all the different configurations that they put this show into, how many episodes, or like you said, is it going to be a movie? I mean, tell the story that you need to and deal with whatever time that is. And then if you want to make it episodes, cut it up into however many fits that story. Don't just draw it out for no reason or condense it for no reason. But I don't know, just keep getting that kind of flux from them, which is weird because, I mean, they definitely control the market.
Yeah.
You know?
And they have such good content that they can produce here. And I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more flashbacks. We got the one with Anakin and Obi-Wan, with both of them looking like, I'm just gonna be honest here, they both looked really old in that flashback.
Right.
And if you compare that to episode 2, it's like, well, whew. It's like it wasn't as well as I thought it was going. I thought we were gonna get more flashbacks with that. I thought we would have a little bit more. I really wanted to see Obi-Wan showcased in the show. It's called Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like, so what I would have really liked to have seen was like his story. Like even if they like had a young actor playing Obi-Wan from the beginning when he's first in the the Jedi Temple learning, or when he first gets picked up, and his journey through life, and it kind of gives his backstory, develops the character a little bit more about why he's there. And they kind of do this in the comics, so why can't they do this with the show? I mean, they have people, they have writers that have written a lot of extremely good content, but they're not using it. And I just don't understand why you wouldn't use the best of all of your stuff and try to create something that is the culmination of this character that presents them in a better way. It's frustrating.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because that exact formula is what worked very well in the first season of The Mandalorian. We saw intermittently cut these flashbacks of him as a little boy, whenever his parents died, and whenever he was taken into, the Mandalorian way of life and all that sort of stuff. And it was very important for that show, because we didn't know who this is. Obviously, it's supposed to be a character that looks like Boba Fett, but isn't Boba Fett. And so we needed to figure out who this guy was over the course of the season. And they did that. I think that they just keep trying to mimic the Mandalorian's results without getting too close to the Mandalorian's formula. And, we saw this in Boba Fett, where they're trying to tell a very different story, make Boba Fett very distinct from the Mandalorian. And the episodes that were the best were the ones that dealt specifically with the Mandalorian. Everything else, like they had first planned, could have been told so much better in a shorter time span in a movie, because you really didn't have that much that he actually did.
Yeah. So let's kind of sum up this Obi-Wan talk and give it our ratings. So we like to do ratings. I think we do one out of 10. So what would you rate this at, Matt? This series, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right. B- for me, and I'll tell you, I give it that high because of Ewan McGregor and because of the girl, and I apologize, I forgot her name, that portrays Leia. Those are the stars of the show, and it worked very well. And I do want to see more from that actor as Leia, but I just think that they should have taken the story to other places aside from just the kidnapping plotline. It could have gone so many different places, but it didn't.
Yeah, it did. But you called it too. Like you predicted that Leia would be in it and everything, and we'd get Darth
I didn't
Vader.
think that that she'd
I know.
only do the one thing, like she was just incarcerated the entire time.
Yeah, that's true. So, but I did very much enjoy her. So we're gonna do grades instead of like
Oh, sorry.
the 1 out of 10 scale.
One out of 10. Sorry. I'll go with a 7, solid 7.
7, solid 7. Awesome. I'm gonna give this. I'll do. We'll do a grade and a and a number score here. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a solid C plus for
Wow.
it because
Okay.
it really did. Is like they. I think that it really did detract that this was originally a movie and they took that script and tried to make it into a miniseries. If they designed it as a miniseries to begin with, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But if they made this into a movie, I think it would have been a lot better because it would be a lot more succinct, and it's just not all this plotting of going back and forth. And I was like, oh, okay, what is he? He's going here, he's going there. He's got to save Leia again. He's got to go and do this. It seemed like a lot of retread kept going through, and they had to space it out. I didn't like that at all. So 6 out of 10 for me for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. What do you think about Andor? Did you see the new trailer that came out for that?
No, I just liked the teaser. I didn't
Oh.
know what that show was going to be about at
Mm-hmm.
all. And the teaser, as is most often, was enough for me.
Oh man,
I
yeah, and the fandom is going crazy for this. The scale and the scope of this show, that even from the teaser that you see, but even the trailer that they just showed, the scale, and they didn't film anything with the Vision, which is those that high definition screen that they use for the Mandalorian, and they did use it for Obi-Wan. They didn't use any of that. They did a lot of things like out there in the real world for this, and tried to make it as real as
what?
possible, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's what that I to me that's a large part of what worked for Rogue One. I remember
Yeah.
as they were getting ready to show, whenever that was going to come out on the big screen, they had all of these special features on websites and stuff that they published pictures of the set, like just lines of X-wings in a hangar that was
Right.
really there, and the
Real physical
jungle
stuff.
beachhead thing. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and it looked amazing. I mean, it looked like D-Day in Star Wars universe, and it was crazy cool to me. But so from the teaser, I picked up that this shows a lot of accumulation of kind of the start of the rebellion in different pockets of the universe, which
Factions
I
all
think
over
is
the
just
universe.
an awesome place to take a show.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what's Andor? I don't really know this guy, and I
Yeah.
mean, his
You know,
character wasn't that interesting from Rogue One. He was a cool guy,
right.
but as far as having his own show, like this is going to give shows to everybody. But
Isn't that crazy though? It's like the one show that might actually be awesome is going to be the show that all of us were like, Andor, whatever. I want to see Boba Fett. I want to see
right,
Obi-Wan. And this show, like, I absolutely like. This is my prediction. I'm going to make it right now, guys. That this
yeah,
show is going to be a refreshing, like, return to form for us. And I think it's Tony Gilroy. He actually worked on Rogue One, and he's like the showrunner for this show. And it's like, what? How many episodes? I think it's like, it's not 13. I think it's 13 or 18 episodes that we have for Andor
wow,
coming up. And like the
that's
first September 21st, they're playing the first 3 episodes on the date. It actually got pushed back. Originally, it was going to come out in August, but now
yeah.
it's going to be September 21st, I think. Let me check on how many episodes. Andor episodes count. How many we
But
got here?
I think longer count telling a larger epic story like that would be awesome. I wonder if it's going to
12.
lead, kind of right into Andor's first introduction with what's her name from Rogue One,
Oh, Jin Urso. So,
Jin. So there,
I don't. It might. And what the news is out of that, which I've heard on other podcasts and things like that, is that there is a second season that's been greenlight for Andor. So they've got something here. Apparently, to get a second season already when it hasn't premiered for a show about
Yeah.
a side character really from Rogue One. They must have
Right.
seen this footage, seen this first season, and been like, this is something special. We got to continue with this. But the buzz is that on the second season is it's going to be kind of a time lapse. Like they're going to have a couple of episodes for like year to year leading up to basically A New Hope. So you might see some of that stuff from Rogue One right at the end
Yeah.
of season 2 of Andor. But the very scope of this whole show looks incredible. I think that this is a good jumping off point for a lot of people, especially like, this is kind of what they tried to do with Rebels as well, kind of show the beginnings of the Rebel Alliance. But this will definitely have a lot more viewership. It's on Disney Plus. A lot more people will check it out because it's not a cartoon. And if you haven't seen Rebels and you are an adult, please go see it because it is definitely worth it. I mean, these shows are amazing. Dave Filoni, if you like The Mandalorian, if you like the Clone Wars show, it's right up your alley. So much in there. It's so well done. Just the small little bit that they did with Obi-Wan in Rebels was far better than the entire Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I mean, it's called the Twin Sons. That's an amazing episode. If you're going to check out any episode from Rebels, go check out Twin Sons because oh my god, it's Alec Guinness Obi-Wan too, and like they brought on a special voice actor that sounded just like Alec Guinness. So that was terrible, terrible accent for that. But yeah, Andor. I think that we're gonna have a really good show coming up. I'm really excited about that coming up. So, and I didn't think I would be, and it's crazy that this is the situation that we're in. And hopefully it delivers, And then we're gonna get Mandalorian a little bit later on, season 3 for that. We're gonna get Ahsoka coming. There's gonna be so much Star Wars coming out here. They announced like another one that's called Skeleton Crew, the Alkalite as well. So just so much content.
I will say I give Disney and Lucasfilm high props for sort of tweaking their model based on what they think the fandom is going to appreciate and what kind of stories are going to be interesting to them. And I know some people out there is really, knock the fans for being aggressive. And I don't think we need to be out there, belittling performances or, cast and crew on these shows. I mean, they're trying to do the best with what they have. I think if there's any shade need to be tossed on anybody, it's basically the larger sort of entities that control where all of the pieces fit in. And even them, even if you're looking at like Kathleen Kennedy or somebody, they're still trying to produce good Star Wars content. And not every single one of them is going to hit the bullseye. But like you've said many times before, we're still getting Star Wars stories. It's still staying relevant. Our kids are into it. Our parents were into it when it came out. I mean, it's incredible that they're keeping it going this long and they're still finding interesting stuff to do with it all. So,
I mean, we're so lucky now. Like growing up, it's years and years go by when we were waiting for the next, prequel episode to come out in the movie theater. I mean, just like the amount of content, like I said, it might not be the best content that we're getting. We're getting so much of it that I'm just happy having Star Wars on a weekly basis. I mean, this is why I'm looking so forward to Andor here, is because there's so much of it. And I think it's like 12 episodes that we're going to get from that. So I'm just so excited to get all that content. And gearing towards Lucasfilm, I kind of want to gear us, switch us over. Have you gotten to check out Light and Magic on Disney Plus? Have you checked it out yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
you've told me a lot about the show.
So
I haven't checked
great.
it out yet.
Yeah, it basically takes you into the beginning steps of making this company, which George Lucas needed a special effects company that was going to create different effects that were like a Space Odyssey, 2001: A Space Odyssey, but fast, because he wanted fast things. And no company was out there that could do any of those type of effects, so he just decided to to hire these designers, these engineers, all these different creative people that were multifaceted in what they knew how to do, and they just came up with different stuff and innovations that they didn't know would completely work, and they're like, we don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to figure it out. And it's so cool to get to see all that behind the scenes stuff. Joe Johnston, oh my gosh, I didn't know how pivotal that guy was into all this stuff, and he did all the storyboards for Star Wars: A New Hope and everything. Did you know that he's the guy that designed the Millennium Falcon? Like, because like they had,
No.
it's crazy, and the show kind of presents that too. Is there was a spaceship that they were going to use for a design, but there was this other like B movie, space movie that just came out that had very similar design, and George Lucas was like, well, I don't want to have something like that in my show. And I love George Lucas, by the way. So, and so he asked.
You have portrayed the character Luke Gorgeous before, so I guess
Luke Gorgeous,
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he asked Joe Johnston to come up with an idea, and they already had they already had the cockpit for where they had that built and everything. So he had to incorporate that cockpit on some other design, and he was looking around, and like he was looking in his house, and he was like, and he saw two dishes put together, and he's like, oh, the saucer shape and this kind of thing, putting it together. And yeah, Joe Johnston came up with the design for the Millennium Falcon, putting the cockpit on the side and having it look very industrial. And I was just like, holy crap, I never knew that. And Joe Johnston, he started with ILM, and he's done so many good things. Rocketeer was one of his big ones in the beginning. Captain America, the first Avenger. I mean, dude has gone on to do a lot of really cool stuff, and a lot of these guys did. And they started out, all these big names. And it was amazing to get to see the process of how they started out with miniatures and how they would film these things, and how they dived into computer graphics, and they were like, okay, we want to hire these engineers and everything. And they like, computer's going to be the wave of the future. And George Lucas, whatever you might think of George Lucas, I know people have different opinions. I absolutely love the man. I can't give him enough praise. But for everything that he's done to revolutionize and to progress the movie industry into the future with computer graphics, with digital photography, with digital editing, all this stuff came from him pushing these guys in ILM and all these other places. Pixar came from there too. They were an offshoot of ILM as well. So all this stuff that we have, all these amazing movies and all these effects came from this idea, came from Star Wars. I mean, so it's amazing to see. the one of the best documentaries I've seen. Just makes you feel good, and just like seeing such a ragtag group of people come together, like kind of like the Rebel Alliance, really. There were a bunch of rebels, and to design and innovate what they did, and to just make movie magic, and just to try to push that even farther, so that we get to see something on the screen that is absolutely amazing and just makes us feel like we are transported to another place. And this is what ILM has done in several movies and shows and other things, and it's well worth your time. It's on Disney Plus right now. Definitely worth a watch. So and if I was going to give this one a rating, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for me. So it's well, I can't say enough good things about it. Check it out, Matt. Next time you
I've got to check it out. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. I mean, it's
right up your alley,
very
too,
interesting,
especially with our filmmaking backgrounds and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that occurred in area that I grew up in. So American Graffiti and stuff, that all that was
right
filmed in areas that, right. Yeah, so it's always hear about the stories. George Lucas was a legend whenever I grew up, and point out a lot of the iconic places from where he started out, and to be able to look at true pioneers. We have a lot of footage of the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo guys. And everything those people did, but there was thousands of those people, and it's hard to kind of target down to like this group of people. These engineers over here had the most influence on developing the lunar module, and on and on. I mean, it's vast. Same thing. You look at the pioneers that mapped out the West, and you've got Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea and all those people, but there was tons of the little guys that took the trip, packed in the stuff, all that kind of thing, and you don't really get to see it. But with this show, you get to see all of those people, and you get to see them in their element as they are creating it, and that sounds incredibly interesting to me.
Right, and you see that it takes a village to make these things. It's not just one person. George Lucas came up with the idea for the show and everything, and he is credited for Star Wars, but so many people had their hands on these things. So many artists, engineers, and this is why science, technology, mathematics, STEM is so important, and why we need to keep up with that with students nowadays and continue on, because these are the kids that will eventually work on things, not just in movies, but in the space program and other things to help us progress forward as well. So I just it's awesome to see these people.
In the fatherliness now.
Right? Yeah. When we're talking about pasta, the old pasta.
Yeah.
You should tell our listeners about pasta, Matt.
No, I can get into that in another show, but I'll ask you this, since guys. I haven't seen it. Is it one that you would sit down and watch with JJ, or your kid? Yeah.
But I tried to sit them down and watch it, but they did lose interest. But I think with what you're showing your kids and the interest that you're showing with rocket making and things like that, and I think that they might get something out of it as well. It's definitely something you can watch with your family, for sure. If they're interested in it. So my kids kind of like just have the TV on for background, and then they go off and they play and they do their own things. So they don't really pay attention to the TV as much. I guess that's a good thing. So yeah. So very interesting.
Well, so I have to shift us a little bit into something that I don't think would be appropriate for my children to enjoy along with me, and that is actually a book that I'm listening to on Audible right now. And it stems from one of my favorite movies of all time, Heat, which is by Michael Mann, Robert De Niro, and Al Pacino, and a whole lot of other incredible actors. Love that movie. It's probably, I would say, if I made a list of the top 10, that it is number 2 or 3 for me. And I haven't figured out what the other movie would be. But, number 1 is Shawshank. And then this movie, I mean, when I'm considering my list, I think, how many times could I watch this repeatedly and just continue to enjoy it? And Heat is right up there. Like, I watch that movie anytime somebody wanted to watch it with me, I would always say yes. Anytime I'd see it on TV, I'd watch it. No problem at all. It's a very layered, very multifaceted, very epic movie told in the span of events that occur over just a few days. Yeah. And the way that it's shot, it feels very industrial. It feels tactile. It feels like it's happening. It feels like the people that you're watching aren't actors, that they are in the industries of the people they're portraying. It's incredible. The families feel real in their struggles, and all of it is just great. So the book that I'm listening to is Heat 2, and Michael Mann wrote it with Meg Gardner. And Meg Gardner is a veteran of the thriller industry. She has written many, many novels in series in this specific genre, and I think it pays off because the book is very much told like how you would imagine somebody narrating movie.
You think that Michael Mann had this script, like he had it ready to go for a long time, and it came to a point where it was like, well, we probably aren't going to get to make this now because most of the actors are either too old or, Val Kilmer can't physically act in these things. So we'll just release this as a book, you know.
I would say that to me, the story, and I'm probably halfway through.
Hmm.
The story feels much too large to tell as a movie. I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to give too much away, but it takes place immediately after the events of the movie, but it also takes place many years before. It takes place many years after. It spans the continent. It goes to different places
Seriously.
around the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it feels very fluid. Like every
Hmm.
next step that you're introduced is thrilling in its own right. And there's just, like in Heat, there's sort of this perpetual movement. There's things always happening
Yeah.
in the script, and things always developing, and people always planning, and those plans going wrong, and then people coming ahead. It's been very hard to predict what will happen in the next chapter, which is
Yeah.
awesome because you
Was
know
I
sometimes you
got a
can.
question. Was the original
Yeah.
Heat, was that a novel first too, or was?
No, that Michael Mann wrote the script, and he based it off of a conversation that he had either with, I can't remember this correctly, but it's either with his dad or with a detective he knew,
Mm-hmm.
where he was talking about a criminal that he had investigated in the past, and that he had actually sat down with, just like in the movie Heat, and had a conversation with him, had a meal with him. Yeah, so that conversation occurred in real life. Now it's probably completely different. You know, the content of their conversation was probably completely different, but the idea of a criminal mastermind and an incredibly intelligent investigator meeting and having sort of a mutual respect for each other, realizing that they're on opposite sides of the same coin, and connecting, but knowing that after that conversation, their jobs both continue and eventually bring them to a head. That was the spawn of Heat. And that's where it all came from. So Michael Mann wrote, after he had heard that story, he wrote this big epic movie, got to make it several years after he had planned to. But thank God, because
Yeah.
by the time he got to make it, he had several movies under his belt, and I think he had the notoriety enough to get the actors that he did, which
Yeah.
every single one of them is incredibly important in Heat. And so you get to read about the backstories of some of these characters. You get to read about what happens immediately to them based on the circumstances at the end of the movie, and then it takes you just well beyond any of that, and it's incredibly epic in scope. I would say, as far as like crime novels go, it's sort of the uh, Two Towers version of crime novels. It just goes
Damn.
to so
Yeah.
many different locations with so many different groups of people that are intertwined. It's telling a very large story. So I've enjoyed every minute of it.
That's awesome. So, and that's on Audible. You're listening to that one, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm listening to it on Audible, and I'll tell you, the guy that reads it on Audible, and I think I said this to you already, he sounds like he's doing an epic trailer the entire time.
In a
That
world.
one man, one desire, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Um,
One
but
man, one desire.
for me, it works because it's sort of this hard-boiled crime novel, and that's the voice that's going on in my head whenever I just read the book myself. So,
That's great.
but yeah, yeah. So anyway, definitely not kid appropriate. So don't read it to your kids before they go to sleep.
Right. Yeah, and if you enjoyed Heat and everything, Christopher Nolan took a lot of inspiration for The Dark Knight from that movie, so it's got a lot of that same feel in that, and you can definitely tell with a lot of the shots. I mean, even just like Batman and the Joker sitting down and having that conversation. That was basically a blatant ripoff of what we see in Heat. So
Even the soundtrack, you'll
kind
hear
of
the
similar, yeah.
joke in Heat. I rewatched the other day because the novel was really making me crave
Right.
seeing the events of Heat again. And there's that overhead shot of like the city, and then it kind of narrows in on a van going quietly through the streets, and it's just that sort of single note going through there, just like it does in The Dark Knight. And so, yeah, I mean, Christopher Nolan obviously paid tons of homage, and has said so in many interviews
Oh, for sure.
that it was largely inspired by Heat. But,
Yeah, because it's such a great film. So, yeah, I agree. I don't
mm-hmm.
like where I'm trying to think. Like now that you said it was your third favorite film, I'm trying to think of where I would place it in the pantheon of movies that I really enjoy. I'll have to come back to that, but yeah, it is definitely up there for sure.
Yeah, I think of like The Godfather would probably be up there. You know, Saving Private Ryan, or even Jurassic Park. Really, like that movie is so good, even with the stuff that I don't know. It stood the test of time, and so it's weird to say that a dinosaur movie is at like the pinnacle of cinema. But Steven Spielberg, at least for my view of the pinnacle of cinema, which is worth this much when it comes to the art form. But you know, it's an enjoyable movie, and I think that's what the art form is all about. Making you feel something.
Probably not going to be what you guys watch tonight for Silver Screen Sunday, though, right?
Jurassic Park?
No. Heat.
Yeah, not Heat, not The Godfather, not The Shawshank Redemption.
Dang.
We're not going to watch any of my top favorites.
Right. Later on. The waiting is the hardest part when it comes to that. So let's talk about another one that's not kid appropriate. Let's talk about Stranger Things. So that came out too, and I think we both got to watch that. So what were your impressions of the latest, season 4 of Stranger Things?
Well, like you brought up, people thought that it was overly long. I totally disagree, but I
disagree completely on that. That's what?
Yeah. I loved The Wire. You know, that movie or that show told a slow story. You sat with those characters. There were scenes with conversations about nothing that really moved the plot forward, but it formed about who they were. And it makes you live in that world with them, and it makes it feel very authentic. No matter if you're telling a sci-fi story or what. I can say the same for like Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049. You know, these are very long movies. Any of the Lord of the Rings extended editions, but they kept the story progressing. It didn't feel long to me, but I enjoyed this. Somebody that doesn't, I would say, yeah, it's going to be torture.
Yeah, and it's just like the thing I love the most about this show. Hey, Chris, I shared us on Facebook, so gave us a little ding on our feed there.
Right.
But yeah, the thing I love the most, especially about this season, and I think most of the seasons too, is how they play with music and how they bring that about into the story as well. I love that. Oh my god. And you know, they just do so well about incorporating that into the show and the character and bringing these new characters in. Each season they bring in somebody new that you instantly start to care about, and what happens? They get the axe, you know, and so every damn time.
Always. I thought so too, but so I'm making my way back through the show, and I'm in season 2 now, and the character
stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Max's brother, I didn't realize he was introduced in season 2. And I was like, man, he's just a jerk for 2 whole years, which I can't remember how long it was between the 2 seasons, but yeah.
I think it was 2 years. Yeah, they introduced him that 1 year, then he was the lifeguard the next year. Yeah, season 3.
That's right.
For that, with the crazy hair, like he had that
crazy hair and like I don't know if it was meant to be like The Graduate or something with the mom.
Yeah, that was awkward.
It got so creepy.
Yeah, season
Yeah.
4 of Stranger Things, they really is it the Duffer Brothers, right? It's like
Yeah.
they are just killing it with this show. It is awesome to see what they're doing with this. I kind of can't wait for them to be done with this. I think they've started writing season 5, but I can't wait to see them do other projects too, and it's going to be really exciting to see something else that they tackle, because they've been able to bring in nostalgia with this show, and give us the things that make us feel good about the 80s. And I really do hope that in season 5 we get to the 90s. It's like, it was so cool to see them go into the 90s in Stranger Things as
Yeah.
well. With
They,
Vecna as well, and they actually did say that with Vecna in season 4, that they had planted the seeds for that, in like, they had the idea for this character all the way back in season 1. So like, I'm sure that they didn't have it all planned out. You
yeah.
kind of, you always hear showrunners say like, oh yeah, we have this all planned out, and they never really do. Lost was the big one for us when we used to talk back in the day. But yeah, I did hear some things that, like, and I'm really curious, because you said you've gone back and rewatched from the first season. Are you seeing anything in there that's kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of pointing to this character?
Well, it's difficult because, at the end, if you haven't seen the end of Stranger Things season 4, pause now. But at the end of,
Spoilers.
right,
Spoilers.
at the end, season 4 here, it's revealed that Elle had some kind of memory lapse. So she isn't aware of a lot of the other kids at the lab, and she doesn't remember any of the events that basically gave birth to Vecna, or her casting him into the Upside Down. Whether or not she created it, we don't know that yet. But so when I'm watching season 1, you don't really get much information about the lab beyond the point that she starts
Yeah.
her memory, essentially. So as we're getting into season 2 here, she's going back and trying to find her mom and figure out that whole story. So I haven't really seen seeds of Vecna planted in there. The first season, it was mostly Demogorgon is the big bad, and that's
Yeah.
what we're fighting. Season 2, the what do they call? It's not the Mind Flayer yet, but basically the big smoke monster.
Mm-hmm.
That's the overarching thing that they're trying to stop. And I don't see any kind of threads of Vecna in there. So I keep watching for it. I'm not at the part of season 2 where Elle has met, I think 9 is her name, the other girl that made it out to the lab. So there might be some stuff there where that other girl wouldn't have had memory loss. So maybe she recounts some of it. I don't know. I haven't got there yet, but we'll see.
We'll see. I can't wait to see the next season of it. And and like we were saying, again, I wish Lucasfilm would take a page out of what they're doing. These long episodes that are just amazing.
Yeah.
And just like, I have no problem. I sit there and I'm like, how much time do I have left with this? And I've got like an hour. I'm like, great. Like, give me all of this. This is great. This content is so good. And so out of the two things, like, Stranger Things came out right around the time that Obi-Wan Kenobi came out. And out of the two, I was more excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was like, I'll get to Stranger Things. I'll get there.
Yeah.
But out of the two, I absolutely loved Stranger Things more than Obi-Wan Kenobi. It ended up being a much better show, much better written, much more cohesive story,
Oh, yeah.
just better character development and everything else. It's like, it was on a whole nother level. Eddie is my absolute favorite character in this now. He just, that actor just blew me away. Like, this guy is so likable, and that's just that Metallica solo and the guitar in the Upside Down was just like, oh!
Yeah, well, he
And he
does
did
such a
that
great
too.
job.
He actually practiced that, and
Yeah,
so he's
no,
actually playing. It's amazing.
yeah. Did you see the video where like Metallica plays
Yes.
along with him?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. They're
awesome.
all super excited about it. So, uh,
Yeah,
I was very like I wanted to see that character like get out of that situation. I didn't want to see him die, but at the same point, spoilers by the way. But at the same point, you know, at the
yeah.
same point, that was the logical end of that character, and he already grew. Like he was this character that would run. Like he's like I'm not a hero. I was like I'm just gonna run. I'm gonna get out of there. I'm not gonna stick around. I just want to get out of here. And he kind of grew as a character, and he was like, no, I'm gonna stand and fight, and stand up and be this real hero and everything. And I think that's very inspiring, and especially for the
Yeah.
other characters as well. And it's very emotional too. When I forget what that, what the what's that kid's name, that was with him, during that. Like, oh, he's the main character. I'm losing his
I
name.
know. We really have
I
to
know.
come with like a list so we can
I know.
stop dissing
But
actors.
when he was talking to Eddie's uncle,
Yeah.
it's just like that was so powerful. Like he died a hero and everything, and like it's just like
Mhm.
amazing. I don't know, like as an uncle, like hearing that from this kid, it's like what are you talking about? It's like let's get the
Well,
cops involved in this situation. So
yeah. He's dead.
yeah, it's like what?
But
But yeah, very well done. I absolutely loved it. Can't wait to see what we get to see in the next season. With when Max, like, is Max dead now? Is that the situation? Because like because the Upside Down is coming in to the real world now, and so it's like, oh, is she dead? Like she was in the hospital there. We didn't actually get to see what happened to her. So did she die? And is that why the Upside Down is now infesting into the real world?
right. Yeah, I think she did die. I think her
Yeah,
heart stopped and allowed the fourth gate to be opened, and
yeah.
the whole thing, which
That
I
was such a
couldn't
crazy
believe. I
shot
mean, I
too,
was
getting to
like,
see all that stuff, and
yeah. I thought it was over. I thought, okay, we got a resolution. We'll get
yeah,
to season 5, and then all of a sudden she dies. Like, oh, what?
I
This
know, right?
is getting crazy.
Right. This is like
And
the Empire
then it,
Strikes Back of the series, so it's like
yeah,
that was
yeah.
what makes it so good.
So I kind of think that we'll have a little bit of that in season 5. I hope they don't do a ton of it because we have seen some version of that in a lot of the different series. The first season they were after Will Byers the entire time. Second season they're trying to figure out what's wrong with him the whole time, and
Yeah,
they're trying to figure out where this other um,
yeah. I
psychic
think
kid is and stuff. And
Yeah, I think Will is going to have a major role in the final, like this fifth season coming up. I really do, because if you could tell, he started messing with his neck at the end there too when he got back into town. I also think with it's heavily like throughout the show they're playing D&D and everything, and that is the basis of like the character that they fight in each of the seasons. So basically, this is going to be a real life D&D kind of situation that they're going to be in moving forward in this next season. And that painting that Will did, and having what's the main? I'm so bad with these characters' names, but the painting that they did, I think that's a foreshadow of what is going to happen
yeah,
in this next season and what we're going to get to see. So it's going to be bonkers. I think it's going to be like crazy monsters and them fighting all these
mhm.
things and dealing with this stuff, and trying to get to this Vecna character as well, who apparently
From
survived.
the articles that I have read say
Mhm.
that there won't be a development to the plot line for season 5. That basically there'll be a time jump, and the
Yeah.
development for season 5 was meant to take place in season 4, and we just find our characters already on the move and in the
Hmm.
midst of the plot, and basically all the episodes are being to Vecna's ultimate defeat or whatever they're going to do, and
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that. The rest of the seasons have had some kind of slow burn up to a crescendo of the action and the plot and all that coming together. But to have it start off right from the beginning, that we're in the midst of it, that should be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and I hear like the next season it's going to be a shorter season too. It's not going to be as long, and this is like the final thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, and for me, it's like whatever your content is, as long as it serves the story, as long
Mhm.
as it's good content. I don't care how many episodes it is. If you have enough story that's great and very developed, long season, totally fine. But if you don't stretch it out like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like go with the
Yeah.
shorter season. Make it
Mm.
as good as content as you can, as a good of story as you can, and go from
Yeah.
there. So I really don't care that it'd be a shorter season or whatnot, as long as it's good, as long as it brings us to a good conclusion to the show and everything, which I really do hope we see. So let's go
Yeah.
into our ratings for this one. A grade and a number out of 10.
Yeah. For
What do
season
you got?
four, right. I would say probably an 8.8 for season four.
Okay,
I
going into
really, I
decimals.
really, yeah. Okay, we won't do decimals. I'll say, man, it's hard not to because I feel
Just
like an
round it
eight's too
up.
low. Huh?
Yeah, let's just round it up. That's what I would do.
All right. I'll give it a 9 because I really enjoyed it. I could watch it again right now.
Me too.
And it wasn't perfect, but I think shows like that, like the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all of those horror
Yeah.
movies of the 70s and 80s that it's meant to emulate. None of those were perfect either.
No.
But they're still classics. They're still great movies that are totally rewatchable. And this show is jumping off from those and just making that kind of nostalgia even better, I think.
Yeah. And
So
we got Robert England
I
in
know. Oh
this
man, you can't
season.
even look at it though. You
I know.
can't you
It's like
barely look at his
why?
face.
I know. With those
He must be
eyes.
getting tired of that kind of character. Like I know he's portrayed some other characters that you can look at their face and they're not scarred up. But man, horror movie wise, he knows how to pick the makeup effects.
Right.
So
So if you're getting a 9 out of 10, is that an A for you?
oh yeah, we're going with both. Yeah, A minus for me.
A minus. All right. Excellent. So,
What about
for
you?
me, I think I'm gonna do this. Like, I think I'm right there with you. 9 out of 10. Out of the different shows that have come out recently, this is probably one of my most favorite ones. It's most enjoyable. Definitely rewatchable. Definitely makes you want to go back and rewatch the whole show as well. Gets you pumped for what's coming up next, and it gives you good character. I love good characters, and this is like, the Duffer Brothers also bend to an homage over to Stephen King as well. And that's what I love about Stephen King novels is the character development, and we have that with this show as well. So I have a lot of that in this show, and the homage
Yeah.
to 80s movies and horror movies that we've seen that we grew up with. It's just perfect. They've done it so perfectly. So 9 out of 10 for me. I'll give it an A plus as well. So A minus for Maddie, A plus for old Chris Boy here on that show. And so the other show that is out that we have been watching. I don't know if you watched all of it yet, but Better Call Saul is in its final season. This is season 6. We actually tomorrow night is the last episode of Better Call Saul. It's titled Saul's Gone. But have you caught up with that, Matt? Have you been watching it? What episode are
No,
you
so
on?
no spoiler alerts. No, just with everything, I have not quite caught up. So I've had to stay off the internet and any of
Yeah,
the websites that I go to because, man, they're covering it. I already saw,
yeah.
I, man, I saw a stupid photo of Kim, and it was the
In
well,
black and
I'll
white.
give it away. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, like
So
man.
So
Well,
good.
that's out there. But
So I won't spoil it since you haven't seen all of it, Matt, yet. But I do, man, Vince Gilligan. I'll just give this guy so much props. The team that he has too, and we were talking about this with ILM and
mhm.
Light and Magic as well. That the team that he's developed with this, and a lot of the actors actually directed episodes of the show too.
Yeah.
Michael, what was it? No, I think Kim Wexler. What's her name? Rhea. I think it's Rhea. I think we're bad with names, guys.
Episode, we promise. We're bringing a list of actors
I'm
and their
not
names.
promising anything, so we're just two dads talking, and dads don't remember very much of anything, do we? So, but yeah, a lot of the actors actually, directed episodes. The cinematographer for this show is absolutely amazing. I mean, the shots in this show are beautiful, and they continue on with that throughout this season, and it's beautifully done. I would have never thought that I would see a show end in black and white, but it's so well done, and I'm just so hooked on what they're doing. And I can forgive some of the stuff that I'm seeing that is a little bit more clunky in the show. But at the same time, a lot of people love Breaking Bad, and a lot of people think that that's their favorite. For me, Better Call Saul is my favorite. I've always liked, Bob Odenkirk. He's been I've liked him a lot since back in the day. Like him and the guy from Arrested Development, David Cross. They were like a comedy duo back in the day on, I think I forget
Mr. Show, right? On
Mr.
HBO.
Show. That's it. Yeah, that was the show that they were on. They did together. So I've liked him ever since that. And Mr. Nobody. That movie is awesome. If you haven't seen it, he does such a fantastic job with that movie as well. I checked that out a few months ago, and I just love Bob Odenkirk. I love what he's done with this side character from Breaking Bad. What's really cool too is the first episode that Saul's in Breaking Bad is called Better Call Saul, and this season there's an episode in here called Breaking Bad. Now I won't give it away for what you see in that, but it's very poetic. It mirrors that situation. It's great. I love that. I love that they think about that, and I love how they designed the titles of the first part of the season. They did this and that, and they had that running theme throughout it. And they did this with Breaking Bad. They're doing this. They've done this with Better Call Saul too. Each season has a certain theme when it comes to what the titles are as well. But I absolutely love this. I love getting to see the background on what lawyers do as well. I don't know if it's completely accurate. I'd love to talk to a lawyer about how they view this show. If there's lots of inaccuracies in the process and everything. I'm very fascinated in the process and the courtroom and everything else.
I keep getting to get Danny to watch this. I'm like, just watch it. Just tell me, if it's accurate. I'll tell you about whatever medical show you want to watch, and just tell me that this is real or just trumped up. So
yeah, so I've absolutely enjoyed this. I do like Better Call Saul more than Breaking Bad. I love Breaking Bad, but for me, this show has been awesome. Vince Gilligan has said this after this is basically wrapping up the Breaking Bad universe, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And he's going to be moving on to other things. And again, same thing with the Duffer Brothers. I am so thrilled to see what he works on next. It's going to be so awesome to see where he goes, because, man, he's done such a good job with these shows.
Have you seen Gray Man on Netflix?
Does he direct that? Is that? I haven't seen that one.
No, but you're just talking about great directors going on and doing other things. The Russo brothers have done this exactly.
Yeah, that's right. The Russo brothers did that.
Right. They directed a lot of Marvel movies, and then after Endgame, they went off and did other things. And I think they've been knocking it out of the park. I know the Gray Man isn't what everybody wants, but the action in there is awesome. The characters are their typical kind of quirky characters that have like a line of humor through a serious story. It's good. I like it. It's not, my
Nice.
favorite movie ever, but very entertaining for sure.
And enjoyable one to watch for the kiddos?
No, no,
No,
no.
never.
The Gray Man is an assassin, so he definitely kills people in some inventive ways throughout the movie. So
Nice. Nice. So there,
yeah,
and I can't quite give us a rating on Better Call Saul yet because I haven't seen the last episode. We'll do that next week, though. I'll bring that up again. What else I'm really excited for coming out, hitting U.S. theaters this week on August 19th is a Dragon Ball Super superhero. So me and the kids are actually going to go watch that on Friday. So I'm so excited to see it. My kids are really like Olivia has been into anime for the last like year. Her and her friends like have been into My Hero Academia, Naruto, and it's really cool. And I'm able to now show the kids like the anime that I grew up with because I remember in high school, like getting out of school and everything, I would go and watch Toonami and I would see Dragon Ball Z and everything, and I got really into it. And I absolutely loved it, and going back and rewatching that stuff, and now I get to share that with my kids too, and it's been a lot of fun.
yeah.
Have you I don't know if I ever asked you, Matt, if you ever watched
No,
Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, or if you've ever been into any of that stuff.
no. I ran home and I watched Batman the animated series. That was my staple
Watched
for the
that as well
longest time.
too.
Yeah, yeah. So, gosh, there was usually this cartoon lineup of that, the Animaniacs, sometimes Tiny Toons. I catch that stuff and then I go outside to. Yeah. So that's very cool that you're getting a chance to share it with
Oh
your
yeah.
kids. I've shared the new Animaniacs with mine, and it's pretty cool to pass that stuff along. So
Right? It totally is. And for me, it's like I remember watching Dragon Ball Z for the first time, and the action in this just blew my mind. I've never seen anything else like it, nor have I seen anything like it since then. It's just so amazing. And, being able to watch this show, watch it over the years, you kind of see some of the deeper meanings into the stuff. They actually base Akira Toriyama. He actually based a lot of this on Journey to the West, which is a Chinese novel from way back when. I've ordered it and I'm going to read it here pretty soon because I'm really interested in volume 1, 2, and 3. But it goes into Buddhism, Taoism, things like that, and it's just the overall story and narrative of this show is a lot deeper than people see. And it's not just all about fighting and things, but I mean that is a big part of it. But
yeah,
it's so awesome to see, and so great that I do finally get to share this with the kiddos, and it's something I can always go back to and watch and enjoy. And it's another thing too is like he does like these characters, and you see in a lot of these shows like even Batman does it. He beats up these characters and puts them in the Arkham Asylum, and they get out of jail and he fights them some more, and it's just like that ever
yeah,
cycling through of these characters, the constant crusade, the never-ending crusade to save Gotham. But in a show like Dragon Ball, you see these characters develop in a way where like you'll have an antagonist that becomes a protagonist, and the way that they like the main character is an influence for good on these characters. He doesn't just defeat them and put them away. He actually changes their mindset and changes their point of view, and is able to move past things. And people make mistakes and they do bad things, but that doesn't mean that they'll always be a bad person. They can make
hmm
up for that, and you can, and in the moment, you can make better decisions moving forward. These are the type
yeah,
of things that you learn from a show like this, and this is one of the reasons why I love getting my kids into this because they could see that kind of stuff, they could understand that stuff, and it's Japanese culture, especially in the '80s and '90s and everything when these were first being developed and made. Some of the stuff is like you'll have to fast forward, it's a little out there too for the kids, but for the most part there's some really good lessons in there that I really enjoy having with the kids. So I'm glad that, like, you know, they're coming out with this movie, which was out in Japan and everything. It's coming out here in America now. You can actually watch it either dubbed or subtitled. They have both versions in the theater this Friday, which is really cool to see these characters and everything. But there's also some really good news. There was they had Dragon Ball Z. There's Dragon Ball Z, and also Dragon Ball Super, which was the latest show that came out that was based off of the it came out before the mangas. And now apparently, like, that show, went off the air for a few years now, and it's just been a dry spell. But apparently now, like, next year, 2023, there might be picking it back up, so we might be getting more Dragon Ball Super on TV as well. So we'll get more episodes. The manga continued, so they have 3 or 4 story arcs that they could go off of, as well as these movies that have come out. So there was Dragon Ball Super Brawly. There's this latest movie, Dragon Ball Superhero. So there's lots of different stuff, lots and lots of content that they can develop. And there's also a rumor too that they had out that like the Disney Plus, that Disney was going to buy the rights and they're going to make a live action, and that's total BS. That's not happening. And for me, it's like, I'd always wanted to see these stories developed into live action, and then we got Dragon Ball Evolution. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
It was such trash.
Even the hair seemed off. Yeah.
Oh, it was just the worst. And the director admitted that, like, they didn't really watch the show. They didn't really understand the material as well. But after that, I realized, like, no, let's just keep it as an animation show. You really can't do a story like this justice unless you have somebody that understands the underlying themes and takes care of these characters. And I don't think that is possible, even though it would be amazing. Like, it would be some of the most insane action that you would see if you actually got good martial artist choreography in there as well to do this stuff. There's a lot in there that would make some epic cinema if they decided to do it. But I have no faith in these studios, making a quality product out of it, especially after that last movie. So I would not want to see that. But that rumor is definitely false. We're not going to see that at all. And I just want to see more anime from Dragon Ball in the future. Can't wait for that. So Friday we'll be seeing that. So we can talk about it next week.
For my money, I mean, anime has produced some amazing, beautiful imagery. Like, if they're going to take it anywhere, why not just make the animation better or more high def or more detailed? Things like Pixar did, Yeah, each Pixar movie, they add another layer of texture to their animation. They're not just putting out a new film to do it. Yeah. And I think they could do the same thing with the drawn animation media.
And this new movie, they're actually using CGI and animation on top of that as well. It's a really cool process. And if you look, like, the animation styles have advanced throughout each of these shows too. Like, Dragon Ball has a very unique look to it that doesn't look like Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z has a different animation style, and Dragon Ball Super has a different one as well. And it's really cool to see that progression and to see them trying new things. So it'd be interesting to see if they go forward with Dragon Ball Super, the show, if they take what they've learned from this new movie that's coming out with the CGI / anime effects that they're playing with, and moving into that. I have to mention this too because, like, I saw a trailer for the new Puss in Boots movie, and it kind of looks like the animation. I love how it looks. It looks totally different from the other ones. And I was like, man, this looks really cool. And it very much reminded me of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, how they designed that, like the comic booky, like, type of CGI amalgam that they designed for that is very similar to what they're doing with Puss in Boots. And I'm just like, this is so cool. And I love that they're playing around with this stuff, and all this stuff, it's kid stuff or whatnot. It's made for kids, but there's a level of artistry with this that's pretty awesome,
Mhm.
and I love seeing that side of this stuff and seeing how they advance
Yeah.
it. So pretty cool stuff.
Well, and that's what this show is all about, is appreciating all of those different kind of artistic media in cinema. We're telling stories, and you've got writers involved, you've got artists involved, you've got animators involved, you've got all sort, I guess you could call them all artists, but so many different types of career fields, engineers, scientists, being able to come together and tell a cohesive, amazing story. That's the kind of stuff that we like to talk about here on Fatherly Fandom. So
We do. And yeah, we love to talk about all these different stuff, and like we've been doing this for years, and we usually talk about on Marco Polo. We'll send messages to each other and everything, and like,
boxer,
but we want to share that with you guys here, so that's what you guys get to look forward to from now on, once a week.
yeah.
From us here on YouTube. So if you haven't already, if you've checked this out either after the live stream, you can check this out on Facebook. We're on Facebook with Fatherly Fandom. You can check this out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this right now and you're enjoying what we're talking about, please like our video and subscribe and select the notifications if you can. Subscribe, because then you get to see all of our different conversations moving forward about all the geeky stuff that we like to talk about here on Fatherly Fandom, and bringing up all the really cool stuff.
Yeah, leave us a comment as to what you want us to talk about in the future, or what you want us to check out for ourselves. I mean, really, there isn't a genre that I'm not open to, so yeah. I'm pretty much watch all sorts of television and movies, and it's not just about superheroes or sci-fi here. So,
absolutely,
yeah, you'll hear us talk about everything under the sun.
Yeah, and
when it comes to cinema.
Yeah, and if we get enough subscribers and you guys take part in this, and you join us for these live streams and you comment, we'll read your stuff on the air. You can participate in the conversation as well. We want to get this community started and going, so it won't just be me and Matt, even though we like talking to each other as well and sharing that with you. We will include you in the conversation as well. We'll read comments on the air and just get this going and talk about all the stuff that we're excited about seeing, hearing, music you might want to hear too, and awesome books like Heat 2 as well. So all good stuff. All right, Matt, you got anything else you want to gab about before we hit the road here?
I think that about sums it up for today. We've got lots more to talk about in weeks to come, and there's some things that I've been paying attention to that I won't mention till other episodes. So stay tuned for a whole lot more.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to be back on the air. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for what we're going to get to see in the future, and talking about this with my best friend down there in Denver, Colorado. I'm up in Idaho, up here, Post Falls, Idaho, if you must know. So. Yeah, we're linking the states up here. So, and from you out there in the world, hope you have a good one. And from our families to yours, see you later.
I'm gonna have to. Oh man. Well, I hope we're still not live. Hey, you stopped the recording, right?